All right. I see you, L.A.R.
We good.
All right.
What's up, folks? We back. Hopefully we have did an exorcism on the old ghetto ghost. Hopefully. Guess we're gonna find out. Brother BlackRam and Brother L.A.R. have been nice enough to return back to this old ghetto network we got going on here. But before we were rudely interrupted by a bunch of technical snafus, we were talking about balance. And you said something really prolific, Brother BlackRam. You talked about people following the scriptures. A lot of people don't know, well, they might if they listen to your stuff, that you are an Israelite. So explain to them when you talk about male and female interaction. Tell them your perspective on that, and then I'll get Brother L.A.R's male to female perspective on perspective on male to female interaction as well.
Oh yeah. So even for those who may not believe in this scripture, I think we can find some value from a cultural standpoint. So not just to look at the scripture as a book of spirituality, because we know we have a lot of people who have diversity in their religious beliefs, and that's fine. But the Bible wasn't written in a vacuum. It was for a certain people, written at a particular time. Although the stories and the situations and the examples in there can be considered by some antiquated. However, the ideals contained in the biblical text can be thought of as having a universal and timeless application. So when it comes to the book itself, first I would like to say that a lot of people think that the book is European, but trust me, the European couldn't write something as brilliant. It comes from us, and there's a lot of research that will show. So when it comes to the biblical text and taking that as our example of how we should treat one another, it has to do with nature. So I'm just going to read to you real quick an example of what I'm talking about. This is the Epistle of Peter, chapter 3, 1 Peter chapter 3, verse 1. I'm gonna read this real quick, so just bear with me. It says, likewise, ye wives, be in subjection to your own husbands, that if they do not obey the word, they also may without the word be won by the conversation of their wives, while they behold your chaste conversation coupled with fear. I'm gonna jump down real quick. And it talks about how even as Sarah obeyed Abraham, calling him Lord, whose daughters ye are, as long as you do well and are not afraid with any amazement. And then it talks about verse 7, likewise, ye husbands, dwell with them according to knowledge, giving honor unto the wife as the weaker vessel, and as of being heirs together of the grace of life, that your prayers be not hindered. Now, the first part talks about the woman being in subjection to her husband. Now, we can just look at that from a biological standpoint, right? The Most High made the male naturally stronger, taller, bigger, weighs more, testosterone pumping through his veins, right? He is naturally the provider and protector. So why wouldn't the wife be in subjection to him? Because her necessities of life is flowing through him, whether directly or indirectly. So that subjugation is not one of weakness, like the feminist would think and proclaim, but the subjugation is out of reverence and out of biological demand, and it's sensible. In other words, the man leads his household. Can you hear me very well?
Yep, I can hear you, brother.
So the male leads his household. Now that's a simple principle that's universal. Now understand that whole societies were built on this principle. Even the European took these ideas and copied it and worked for him for a while. He's gotten away from those tenets, and things are not looking as well as they once were, even for him. So we can take these principles and adopt them for the principle's sake. You don't necessarily have to have the belief system, but you can take the principles. So for instance, right, let's look at some other applications of the biblical text, like I mentioned earlier about the keeping the commandments of loving. Prophet X, I'm sure you're familiar with the Nation of Islam, right?
Yes, I used to be a Muslim, and I was in NOI for
yes,
for quite some years.
Yes, sir. So I had my travels and my dealings with the nation myself. And one of the things that Elijah Muhammad taught and so aptly stated, and of course, down through the years, Louis Farrakhan has been a promoter of this. But in the nation, they had a saying, and that saying is simple. It says, I want for my brother what I want for myself. No, that's the same thing as the law, statutes, and commandments. That's the same thing that the Most High commanded us to love one another. Or how about the golden rule? Do unto others as we would have done to ourselves, right? So we see these things, these principles are timeless. We see these principles are current. We see these principles are universal. And as we can see, the science of life, the science of mating, the science of dating demands that the male is the head of the female. It's natural. So the thing about balance, right? Our culture, our society, us as Black folk, we're all out of balance. We're out of balance with our God. We're out of balance with nature itself. Now, you don't expect a gasoline engine to run with antifreeze in the tank. It's in the wrong place. It's out of balance. So, of course, our communities are going to be ravaged by white supremacy. Of course, our communities are going to be ravaged by our own self-hatred. Of course, our community is going to be ravaged because we have not the principles necessary in our mindset to advance civilization, period. We don't have the science of civilization. We don't have the basics of decency in civilization. So, of course, our culture, which is really called a subculture, existing within another culture, American culture, and our culture is considered quite degenerate. And on the face of it, it is, and what you would expect in a white supremacist system. So our culture is degenerate. So it starts with the base. It doesn't start with money per se, even though economic problem is a problem. It starts the root of the matter. In fact, I have a video on my channel called The Root of the Matter. And the root of the matter is this. And there's other YouTubers that talked about this, but I believe the root of the matter is male and female relationships. And the reason why I believe that is the root of the matter, I think that's what we ought to start with anything and building our civilization or coming into balance. It's simple. From two people, male and female, you get a family. From a family, you get a community. From a community, you get a nation. And from a nation, you get a society. So the building block, the foundation of a civilization is the relationship between male and female. And if that is out of balance, if that foundation has cracks in it, if that foundation has holes in it, if that foundation isn't standing, if that foundation is not solid, well, then, of course, you can expect widespread dysfunction, the type of dysfunction that we see on a daily basis in our communities that we aptly call the hood and the ghetto. So those are my thoughts right there.
Brother L.A.R.
He went too deep for me. I'm simple right now.
Well, BlackRam is known to do that. He's known to be very deep.
I actually definitely wholeheartedly agree with that point because our family structure is not what it's supposed to be. And unfortunately, what it seems like we're doing is we're trying to put a square family into a round family's hole. Mm-hmm. And we don't want to accept what works and do what works because we want whatever we want to do to work, and it doesn't. And I think that takes a lot of humility because people are really being forced in some ways to go back to what works because we've had all this time of all these things that don't build a good family, that don't build a good community, that don't build a good nation and don't build a good society. We can see white society crumbling from taking on all of these ideals and ideologies that are eating them from within. So until we actually learn how to get along with each other and do right by each other, I think we're okay with doing wrong with each other as long as it feeds in a capitalism fantasy. So until we do right by each other and we mean it sincerely, we're gonna have an issue.
Well, do you brothers believe that because we as black people, as a black society, because we are so out of balance in most cases, do you believe that it makes it easier for things like the white power structure, for make it easier for us to be, just infiltrated with poverty and despair? And is it because the lack of balance that we have that makes us more susceptible to all these other forces that we would probably have to fight anyway? But are we more susceptible to these forces because of our lack of balance?
Oh yeah, I think so. It's an uphill battle anyway. I mean, we're talking about a people who for 400 years had to endure chattel slavery, who had to endure up from the South Jim Crow. And when we had our communities intact, we had the incidents like what occurred in Black Wall Street. And then we had the ultimate ruin, which was integration. Of course, we know that it's been said by members of the nation, how can you unite and integrate with someone stronger than you? We're looking at these people, the Europeans, as our saviors instead of our competitors, as our masters instead of our enemies. So it's an uphill battle to start. Now, here go the thing. I want to talk about the black man for a minute. What are we to expect from a group of men who have not only been put in chains and discriminated against and hunted down like animals, but who have been systematically kept out of the job market? A group of men who have been systematically, and not only systematically kept out of the job market, but has been declared as public enemy number one. We are the face of criminality. We're the face of everything that society doesn't want. Now, couple that with lack of employment and economic opportunities. Couple that with the fact that as a black man, you have to fight 10 times harder, be 10 times better than all of your counterparts within the United States of America in this melting pot that we call a melting pot. So we're asking almost now for the impossible, but still some of us are able to endure. Still some of us are able to succeed. Still some of us are able to shine. Can't get more powerful than the black man. But what do we expect from such systematic oppression, such a crushing blow as white supremacy, racism, and discrimination, such a crushing blow of being singled out for economic poverty? We have been selected to be the permanent underclass. What do we expect? Well, we should expect the Pookie and Ray Ray's dysfunction. We should expect men who can't pull their pants up. We should expect men who don't have any knowledge of self, men who have been raised by single mothers, men who have been programmed to hate themselves, men who have been programmed to feel obsolete, invalid, and predatory and preyed upon. So these situations and issues that we have are an issue in a situation that we've never seen on the planet Earth. Can you hear me?
Yeah,
yes.
I can hear you loud and clear, brother.
So what group of people have been targeted and sought after for extinction other than the black man? Notice I didn't say the black woman. Not that I have so much art against the black woman, but she has been promoted. She has been taken care of by the government. While she receives welfare checks, we are homeless. There are many programs, and I'm not saying they shouldn't be. There are many programs that help women at the exclusion of men. No one in this society wants to help black men. We have to do it for ourselves. And those who are able to do for themselves and ourselves are men among men. However, the community still suffers. However, little Johnny is still sitting in his community in the urban areas, not knowing who he is, what he's good for, and what his life should be about. And that's the problem. So my point is this. We should expect the dysfunction that we see. It's difficult to fight everybody. No, you're going to fight a system of white supremacy. You're going to fight a system of oppression. You're going to fight a system that hates you. You're going to fight the Arab, the Korean, the Asian. You're going to fight all of them. And then you're going to fight with your woman, who also is your competitor for a myriad of reasons. So what do you expect from a black man? Many of us have lost our minds. Many of us have lost our lives. But when you are surrounded by nothing but enemies, even the strongest man gets tired. Even the strongest man has a period of weakness. But we are expected as black men to be supermen, and our women want to compare us with white men. White men who are the majority. White men who have dominated this country. White men who've dominated this earth. He is still the standard of comparison, and we are expected to compete against him when we're fighting a losing battle. See, Pookie G and Spoonie G, when they're born in the womb of their single mother, they didn't ask for that. When Spoonie G is raised to believe that there's a white savior named JC, when Pookie G is raised to believe that his skin color and his gender is a curse and a sin, when Pookie G is raised to believe that he's inferior, and then the whole world affirms this, at least in the perception. But we expect him to still come out of the hood unscathed, be a business owner and successful. So I'm thankful. I'm amazed that most of us even still stand, that more of us haven't lost our minds. Because what do we expect? We should expect this dysfunction. So my point is that you are already fighting a losing battle. You're already going against the grain and against the tide. And it's more than a notion. Because even the greatest swimmer in the world, swimming against the tide, your arms get tired. But I'll rest on that point.
Brother L.A.R.
I think in a different way, I think what happened is we lost touch of history, of American history, of the black man's history in America. And I don't mean necessarily us, but we're part of that forgetfulness too. Because I think we're the only group in this country that can check off every box of success and also check off every box of sabotage. Mm-hmm. Because if you think as far as our invention and scientific prowess, you can run off a myriad of things that this country still uses to this day that black men created, that white men get paid for. And you can point to the way that they were shut out after these creations were created. You know, easiest example I could say about that would be Lewis Latimer with Thomas Edison and Nikola Tesla. Everybody, Thomas Edison has a freaking what do you call that? Electric company. Nikola Tesla, even though he died broke, he was a rich man at some point, because I want to say either Chase or Westinghouse invested in his current.
I think one had Westinghouse, yeah.
Yeah, he invested in the alternating current, and I think Chase invested in the direct current. Yeah. But who was left out of the equation was a brother like Lewis Latimer, who created the whole situation in the first place. So people forget we are at the forefront of that. We are the founders of, just like Rams from Chicago. We grew up, black man founded Chicago. You get what I'm saying? People forget stuff like that. Mm-hmm. But people forget. Say that again?
No, I was just listening.
People forget our military. accomplishments and status that started sabotaging brothers in the military from rising up in ranks after their successes. People forget, you know, the towns like Tulsa, but all the other ones in other cities, you know, in California, in New York, and Carolinas, and in Florida, you know, like people forget all of that, and they were sabotaged. People forget, even to this day, people forget the civil rights movement, even though they fetishize and fantasize about it, because they never actually talk about it correctly. You know, we're living in a nation where they compare the KKK to the Black Panther Party, but the government implements the Black Panther Party's some of their operation. So it's always looked over. And the modern day thing to me, you know, and I never got into art or culture, the modern day thing to me is actually sports at this particular point. It's not that, you know, sports isn't entertainment to me, isn't just entertainment to me. It's a way to show that if you actually give everybody the same rules and put them on Front Street, who wins? And the problem with that is it's always an advertisement to non-Black men that we can't never have a level playing field, because this is what happened.
Doesn't that kind of makes us it kind of stunts us to a degree, because it puts people in the mind frame of that, you know, no matter how good I do, no matter how much I study, no matter how much I achieve, there's always going to be a force there trying to stop me. And that force is real. Some people can overcome the force. Some people can avoid the force to a degree. But in some shape, form, or fashion, that force is real. Now, we can pathologize about it, you know, because there's a lot of that, you know, on the internet, and me included. That's why I say we, because I find myself pathologizing about about it too. So I say we pathologize about it. But once you're in it, you're in it. Like I often talk about poverty, okay, and despair and impoverished conditions. And, you know, we have a tendency to pathologize about that, and all that pathology is all well and good to know. But that little kid who's 6 years old and hasn't eaten in 3 days, I can't go to that little kid and say, well, the reason why you don't have any food, little fella, is because of white supremacy. White supremacy has caused this neighborhood to go down with gentrification on the other side of town, and therefore the money has left out of this community. So your mom don't have a job, and her little welfare check, you know, isn't enough for you to feed you every day. Now that may be the pathology of it, but that means nothing to that 6-year-old kid who hasn't eaten in 2 days. You understand? So yeah. A lot of times I think we put pathology in front of reality. We have a tendency to take our, I guess, ideologies or our reasoning, and we use that as a currency to buy off reality. You know what I'm saying? And I think a lot of times within Black society, man, many of us don't really understand. Because I'm gonna tell you right now, we don't have 10 million BlackRam 313s. All right, we don't. All right, we lucky if we got 10,000 BlackRam 313s. All right, just like we don't have 10 million L.A.Rs. We're lucky if we have 10,000 of those. So, what do you think? What do you think needs to be done as far as building up our brothers? Because I'm a true believer that men are going to be the ones to rescue Black society. I don't believe women are going to rescue shit when it comes to Black society. I just don't believe that. It's going to be men that rescue Black society. So what do you brothers believe is some of the first things we need to do to start rescuing Black society, if not at the very least, at the very best, rescuing it, at the very least, taking it off of life support?
You want to handle that first, L.A.R.?
It's up to you, fam.
You go ahead, bro.
The first thing we need to do to rescue it is teach skills. I mean, if we teach skills, we'll have a generation of people who can be self-sufficient, and that's the thing. Like a lot of our issue right now is that we're not self-sufficient because we haven't taught. We've taught each other to go get educations and go get degrees and to go get in debt, but we haven't taught people to go in your backyard and farm, you know, or fix your home yourself. Save money, learn how to cut your kids' hair or do your kids' hair, that type of stuff. If we can do that, those skills could translate as an income or a way to have passive income. Like it's been a long time. Like I cut my son's hair, but I'm also in the process of teaching him how to cut hair so he can be one of them kids that I knew growing up, where you can go over their house for $5 and get your hair cut. You know, it puts money in your pocket. You know, we have to build a society. A society isn't necessarily built on money, it's built on skills that generate money. So I think that's part of what we have to do.
Exactly. Say that again. Say that again for the people who may not have heard it, Brother L.A.R.
The society is built on people with skills that can generate money. You know, not just money.
I hope y'all heard that. Brother BlackRam?
I agree wholeheartedly with Brother L.A.R. We need to develop the skills necessary for self-sufficiency. But once that is accomplished, the question is, now what? Now what? Now we're self-sufficient. Now we have the skills necessary to build. Okay, we have our engineers, we have our plumbers, we have our electricians, we have our teachers, we have our agricultural scientists. So we have the building blocks for advancement in this society. Except, hold on, one thing. We built this culture, right? We can advance our society, but wait, hold on. We still in the hells of North America. You're still public enemy number one, right? And how do we know we are public enemy number one? Where is the Asian, the Arab, the African equivalent to Philandro Castile? Where is the Asian, the Arab, the white equivalent to Alton Sterling? Where is the equivalence of a Walter Scott? There are none. So once we become self-sufficient, it is time to get the hell out of Dodge. I, BlackRam 313, I am a separatist. I don't talk about it too much, but I'm a separatist. We have to get out of the hellholes of North America because we have a sworn enemy who hates you with a spiritual and deep hatred that will never, ever, ever, ever end as long as the Black man and woman has breath on this planet Earth. We would need to leave this country. The things that Marcus Mosiah Garvey talked about in the 1920s. Yeah, I understand Elijah Muhammad. He wanted a piece of America. Pipe dream. They'll never give up power in this country. So we would need to leave and get the hell out of Dodge. How can you expect a fair shot when you're in a country surrounded by nothing but enemies? The Black man has nothing but enemies. So we have to get the hell out of Dodge. Yeah, we're going to build the skill set. We're going to educate our people, but then we have to get out of here. Now listen. Any solution whose ultimate solution and ultimate point, aim, or focus ain't getting out of here, ain't no solution. How can you expect a fair shot? How can you expect to thrive amongst your enemies? It's asinine. That's like asking American soldiers to go into Nazi Germany while it was full and up running with Hitler running the regime and expect to live peacefully within that regime. or the so-called European Jew at that time to do the same. Ridiculous. We got to get the hell out of here. So that's for me now. I'm more of a cynic. I'm more of a pessimist. I just really do not have the hope in white folk that they'll let you and leave you be. Black Wall Street is a perfect example. We had men who didn't have their pants sagging, men who wore suits, men who had businesses thriving. I mean, at that time, I forgot the year, but there were literally institutions, black institutions. I'm talking about schools, gentlemen. I'm talking about hospitals, gentlemen. I'm talking about farms, gentlemen. I'm talking about stores, pharmacies, institutions. And what did they do? They dropped a bomb on us. So you can never expect to thrive amongst your enemies. And that's one of our problems. Here go 3 things to me that if you don't know these 3 things, you are not aware. You just can't be woke. You can't be red pill if you don't know these 3 things. Number 1, who your enemy is. That's number 1. You gotta know who your enemy is. Number 2, you have to know who you are. And number 3, you need to know the role of women in the society. If you don't know those 3 things, you do not have the brain power, you do not have the intelligence, the essence, the IQ to know what's right or wrong. You don't have the ideology necessary to pull yourself out of the condition. You don't have the mindset, the worldview to pull yourself out of your said condition. It's impossible. It's impossible. Yeah, we can talk about a lot of things, but if at the end of the day that thing isn't getting away from your enemy and competing and defeating your enemy, it's meaningless. You can do all the economics you want. You can go to church or mosque all you want. You can do all those things. But if at the end of the day you're not leaving your enemy, if you're not getting away from your enemy, all of it is in vain. This place called United States of America isn't our place. I want to go. I ain't leaving by myself, though. But with that, I'll turn it over back to you, Prophet.
Well, where would we go? And let me just chastise my audience right quick. Y'all need to be hitting that there like button. Please do hit that like button, because y'all know I hate when there's more people watching than there are likes on the board. And if you don't want to hit the like button, hit that there, see that Streamlab link that I just put up right here. Should be showing up about right over here somewhere, about there. Yeah, see that link right there? If you don't want to put a like in the bucket, at least drop a few coins in the bucket. I will forgive you not hitting the like if you drop a few coins in the bucket. And likewise, I will forgive you not dropping coins in the bucket if you put some likes in the bucket. All right? All right. Okay. Brother BlackRam. Okay, you said that we need to go, right? Where would we go? Where would black folks go? Say we, like you said, we got our engineers, we got our teachers, we have our nurses, our doctors, our plumbers, our builders, our carpenters. We have everybody schooled, trained, paired up, ready to go. Where we going?
Oh, that's a great question. Great question. And I have an answer. The black dollar in the United States of America, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, in a year's time, over $1 trillion flows through our hands. I remember back in the early 2000s, I believe it was Dick Cheney, Halliburton, former vice president of the United States under W. Bush. I believe, if I'm not mistaken, and don't quote me on this number, but I believe he bought close to maybe, it was a great number, maybe 10,000 acres or 30,000 acres of land in, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, if it was Peru. So let's say that every black man, woman, and child in America, we saved up a little cash. Let's say it was about $500 billion, a year's worth of our spending. We just decided to spend half of what we make in 1 year. Half of what we make in 1 year, $500 billion. And we approached the government saying, hey, we would like to purchase land from you, whether it be in South America, whether it be in parts of Africa. We would like to purchase land from you. And of course, we're not going to expect every black person, but we only 14% of the population. I believe our numbers are like 40 million. So let's just say, for the sake of conversation, we want about 100,000 acres. And we got $500 billion. All right, we got the money, and we buy the acreage and we start to build. And we would just ask that particular government to work with us and let us be somewhat sovereign. We'll follow all the local laws, but all we will want is a community within another nation that isn't the United States of America, that isn't as adversarial as this one is. And from there, of course, we could establish our own military. Of course, we have to probably get government permission, but there are places on earth that would sell us land. In fact, if I'm not mistaken, I would believe it's parts of Liberia who are asking for the so-called African American, the so-called black man and woman to not only invest, but to come to that particular land. So there are areas on the planet Earth that, for the right price, because everybody has a price, right, that will be willing to host us. There have been men in our lifetime who's done this. If I'm not mistaken, let me remember his name. His name escapes me right now. I'll get it in a second. But we had a gentleman who had a Hebrew Israelite group, and they moved to Liberia, and then they went to Israel. Now, they weren't being treated fairly in Israel. This guy's now deceased. But he had the idea of leaving the United States of America and getting his own land. Now, I hate to bring this name up, but it was a great idea. It's about the message, not the messenger. But Jim Jones had a great idea. When he moved to, what was that nation? I believe it was Guyana, absolutely. And established his own community in Guyana. So there have been people who've been trying to do such a thing. And wouldn't nothing be wrong for us to go to an island nation or somewhere and develop our own nation? That would be the only way to survive. And here goes the thing: if we're not careful, that ideology and what I believe is a solution, we may completely miss it, because I don't expect these people to begin to look at us favorably over the process of time. In fact, to me, in my opinion, maybe with the advent of social media, it seems like hostilities are revving up against the black man in this country. Just my personal feeling and opinion. Maybe it's due to social media. Maybe it always existed, but the world is smaller due to the advent of social media. But yeah, there are nations on the planet Earth that will host us. Everybody has a price.
Well, let me ask you, brother L.A.R., if, like brother BlackRam just said, we all pack up, we save half our money, we get to 500 billion, and we buy this plot of land, whether it be in South America or in the African continent or wherever. Are you on the plane? Are you on the plane?
Yeah, I'm gonna be a little bit more rogue, I will say, but I'm on the plane. I have a belief that no matter if we're here or anywhere else, I think one of the first and foremost things we need to do is have defense, because that's that's one thing that killed us in this country, and that's one thing that historically has killed our growth in pretty much every place we've been, because everybody looks at us as a people as with a messiah complex, that we're gonna come fix everything, but we don't have the tools to defend ourselves to make sure they don't steal it either. So, along with the lawyers and doctors and teachers, I believe we need to have some generals. Of course, I get what Rand was talking about working with other countries' governments, but our community, even in America, has this problem where we always want to be integrated or separated peacefully when everybody's not being peaceful with us. Like, we have this issue where it's okay for the cops to have guns and the criminals to have guns, but we shouldn't have guns. And I don't believe in that. I believe You know, if you really want to maintain your freedom, you have to be willing to fight against people who are trying to take it.
Yeah, well, regardless of anything else, if we were to, take up Brother BlackRam's idea and go to another country, another continent, we would definitely be in need of some type of military, as Brother BlackRam said. We would need some type of military. I mean, we probably would want to establish that before we even hauled ass. Before we even left, we probably need to have that already in place. Would you agree?
Oh yeah. Technology is your military is technology. So if we have people who are knowledgeable in the sciences and we can glean that knowledge right here in the United States, military technology is not much. It doesn't take a lot. If steps like that were taken to organize and to train, that's the easy part. But somebody mentioned selling us weapons. All countries around the globe sell weapons. The United States sell weapons to the countries that suit their interest and countries that don't suit their interest. The Russians sell weapons all across the globe. So yes, we'll be looking to buy advanced military equipment from the governments around the world, just like everybody else does, because we would at some point we want to be our own sovereign nation. That'll be a little difficult in a nation that's fully functional already. But this is how I think, and I know we just being I know this is somewhat how can I say hyperbolic in our language and our thinking, and it is somewhat idealistic. But I would be for at some point as we advanced to set forth and take land and topple governments and nations. This is the natural progress of life and society. You want to advance your interest. So, in my mind, if I could just, since we're on the subject, to play around with it in thought, you are the prophet of thought, right? I would want to stomp through the French Alps. I would want to go throughout Europe and conquer. I would want to go through Africa and throughout South America and go forth and conquer and topple these governments. I'll be willing to work with governments around the world to help suit our interest. I would like for us to become a world empire. I would like us to colonialize nations. I would like for us to go forth and conquer. And I'm gonna go even further into this real quick, right? I would actually like us to own slaves. I don't have a problem with slavery as long as we're not the ones that are slaves. I would like to have a group of slaves. I would like to go forth and conquer and maim and destroy and look out for our interests. I would like to colonize the whole globe if possible. Can you imagine a black world with the black man reigning as supreme? I don't really like to talk about this because I get excited. I know it sounds far-fetched.
Talk about it. Talk about it, man. Talk about it.
But I have an imperialistic mind set. And I would want to colonize the world and stomp through the world and own everything. Leading in technology, leading in economics, leading in natural resources, leading in military, to go forth and go through and rule with an iron fist. So I'll stop right there. But yeah, I would want to rule the world with an iron fist. No stopping.
I like that idea. Brother L.A.R., what's your opinion? I mean, of course, I am in total agreement with Brother BlackRam. What's your opinion? Like, far as military and like Brother BlackRam said, should we, if we get ourselves up to that strength where we can take land, take resources? I mean, it's not like it hasn't been done before. I mean, it's been done a lot. Okay, a lot. So what is your idea? What do you think about that? Being able to take land, take resources, take property, take control.
And if it was me in the ideal sense, I don't even think we would have to do that. I think, in all honesty, once we separate from people and fortify where we at, nobody, not just America, this world at this particular point has not been accustomed to standing on their own 2 feet without standing on black men or sabotaging black men. They can't function. So once we separate and fortify where we at, they're gonna eat themselves alive. You can kind of see that the unravel of that in America right now. As far as like other countries, I would probably say like fortify. If we was going, say, to Peru, we could fortify the black people in Brazil first, then the Caribbean islands second, then Africa, pieces, countries in Africa, the resources, third, and watch how they all scatter and fend for themselves, and they can't do it, and they're gonna willfully come along and follow and get in line. Ain't even gonna have to take it. You look at everybody else's history. It shows you the very same thing. As far back as you can go in history, we went around teaching people technology and showing people how to do things, and when we taught them to a certain spot, yeah, they turned on us. But at the same time, when we left them to their own devices, they didn't do nothing but kill each other.
Do you brothers believe, okay, if we black folks in America, we leave from here, right? Say we hypothetically we leave from here and we get our own country and we want to do what Brother BlackRam says, do you think that other black people from other regions of the world would they align with us, or better yet, should we align with them to help them do the same thing?
I would say align with them to help them do the same thing, because they won't have the resources.
Okay.
Oh, I'm in agreement. And just to go, just want to comment on what L.A.R. said earlier about us not having to colonialize. Idealistically, you would think that we wouldn't. However, human nature is one in which other nations will be looking to possibly topple us. So it's a situation where you so-called killed or be killed. In other words, what you're not willing to do to sustain and grow your nation, you better bet it's human nature that another nation will be desiring to do so. Somebody mentioned in the comment section about us being sold rusty guns. Well, being sold guns is one step, but we got to think larger than that. Maybe 10, 15, 20 years, we buying weapons, but 20 years later, we're making our own weapons. Again, when it comes to building civilization, one of the keys to building any civilization will be technology. This is something we talk about as IBMOR in our forums, on our group chats, and on our Google Plus communities. So we would be heavily in technology. So the goal is to be self-sufficient, as L.A.R. said earlier. And self-sufficiency is having your own weapons, having your own food. Listen, think about this for a minute. You can't fight an enemy, especially in the United States of America. You can't fight an enemy that feeds you. You can't fight an enemy who you depend on for your drinking water. An enemy that you depend on for your sustenance. So in a situation where we would advance and have our own country, we would have to, because of human nature, because it's human nature, history is a lesson. When another country gets powerful, they want to take over. And if one country ain't doing it, we have to do it. And that's just how it goes. But I digress. Go ahead.
Well, a lot of times, and I'll say this again, we don't have, 10 million BlackRam 313s. We probably only got about 100 in any city, in any given city. And
that's enough, actually.
Do you think that's enough? You think that's enough? If we got 10 BlackRam 313s in one city, 10 L.A.Rs in another city, 10 X's in the next city, 10 BGS's in another city, 10 Cerulean Grays in another city, 10 Valdez's in another city. Is that enough? Is that enough to get people to rise up? Is that enough to get people to rise up and also wise up too?
No, that's enough, in my opinion, to create a massive think tank to create all the people that you need.
Mm.
You know, you don't need a lot of people to create a lot of great people. You just need a lot of great people to come together to formulate a plan that works for a collective unit.
Mm-hmm. I'm really liking where this conversation is going. And for all of you folks out there who may not know, we got BlackRam 313 up on here and brother L.A.R. So you need to go ahead and hit that old like button right there. Yeah, it's right there. It's right there. See it? It's right down there. And while you at it, you probably want to hit one of these damn links up here that you see. I'm going to be posting them up there in my mods. If you could post them for me as well, because you know X gets a little lazy as the night wears on. So if you're feeling generous, drop a few coins in the bucket. If you're feeling generous with the likes, drop a few of those in the bucket. I always thought when I was coming up as a young guy, right? My father was raised in the South. My father's from Georgia, right? And, you know, he, I guess, dealt with way more bigotry and discrimination and racism than I ever could have or will. But the thing with my old man, he didn't talk about bigotry and discrimination the way we do now. I heard the stories, you know, from my parents and my grandparents. But see, we as men in society now, we don't just tell stories. What we do is we actually we talk about it, we discuss it, we philosophize about bigotry and discrimination and racism and the white power structure and white supremacy. My parents and grandparents didn't do that as much. You know, you heard the stories about, you know, the Klan and you know, white only places, you know, that I heard from my grandmother. You know, you heard about that, but they didn't really have a pathology about it the way we do now. So let me ask you brothers this. Do you think that the reason we have the ideologies about discrimination and racism and bigotry now, do we have those different ideologies than our parents and our grandparents? And if we do, why do you think that is?
You got it, Ram?
Sure, I'll go with it. I don't think the ideologies are quite that different amongst those, because you know you kind of have to separate people. You have people in the know, people who are not in the know. The people who are in the know understand that the same issues are still there. The same racial issues exist. However, those who have been brainwashed by the current cultural paradigms, those amongst us who are not aware, those who get their thinking and their programming from CNN and CNBC and Fox and all that, those particular group of people who their minds are programmed by media and television, they'll believe in ridiculous terms such as post-racial because they've been programmed to do so. They think that there is no such thing as racism anymore because they may have not experienced it directly. They believe it doesn't exist. So those particular people in that particular generation and those with that mindset, yeah, they would believe that there are no issues. They believe in being inclusive. They want to be part of the argument. They believe in interfaith and intermarriages and intercommunities and so on and so forth. But those of the know understand that this is the same devil that's been around 100 years ago, 2, 3, 4, 500 years ago, 1,000 years ago, when he was in the caves of Europe and in the Caucasus Mountains. Same devil. Tactics may have changed, but it's the same devil. So those in the know, we understand nothing's changed. Those who are blinded because they may not be affected by it indirectly, they may have a different story.
Agreed.
I think we just have a different vantage point. I think the difference between now and my grandparents and great grandparents is they had an inclination, but because they didn't have this much technology and information, everybody couldn't connect to see actually how vast and deep this rabbit hole actually went. People knew racism and people knew systematic racism, but the people that were going through redlining didn't know the extent of redlining because that information wasn't present to them. The people who were sharecropping knew sharecropping was some bull, but they didn't know to the extent of everybody being on these sharecropping deals. They didn't. The people who thought moving out to the suburbs was cool, and that was just the beginning of gentrification and got them out of the way. They didn't realize the magnitude of it until after they were gone. You get what I'm saying? So now we have all the back end information, and we should have no excuse. Like, we should be the at this particular time, if you're living in 2018, you should have no qualms, no veil, no blinders on about anything that goes on, because the information is not just, oh, that's the 1900s and the 1940s and 50s. No, it goes from as far as you can research to right now. So all the kumbaya stuff should be completely out of your mental capacity. But some people want to believe, some people want to just eat manure and say that it's cereal.
I totally agree. I mean, especially with the people who talk about, this post-racial nonsense and racism is gone. And these people are just fools. I mean, if you live in America, okay, and you are a Black person, for you to put the two words racism and over in the same sentence is just beyond belief to me.
I can say this. I get it to a degree, because this is the only time where you can be anonymous because of being online and nobody know who you are, so they can't necessarily sabotage you. If you're making if you're doing online business or stock trading and stuff like that, you really don't have that much of a pushback because nobody knows who you are. But if you're dealing face to face and dealing with people, you know what's up.
Exactly. I mean, I think that, well, I say this often, man, when I talk about these things, man. A lot of us just, man, we just love white folks. I mean, we just can't get enough. Some of us, we just can't get enough of white people. I mean, we just love them. And part of that love is also fear. And they deify white folks. They love them and hate them and idolize them all at the same time. So of course they're going to say, oh, racism is over. There is no racism. It's all in our Black minds. The racism we see is all in our Black minds, which is the most absurd thing I have ever freaking heard. I don't know why any Black person would sit back and say, now they can say, like you said, brother L.A.R., maybe racism hasn't touched them as much as it has touched you or me or brother BlackRam. They can say that. They can say, well, racism hasn't touched me as much as it's touched you. But to sit up here in this damn country and talk about it's post-racial or racism is a thing in the past or racism is something that went on in the 1920s is just bullshit. And anybody of reasonable intelligence has to know that. They have to know that. I don't know what world they're living in where racism doesn't exist, but I've yet to see it, and I don't think I'm going to live long enough to see it. So I just don't know what world they're in. When you brothers hear this kind of stuff, because a lot of us, we just have an affinity for white folks. I don't know why, but a lot of us do. All right. Why do you think a lot of us have this affinity for white folks? Are we trying to be accepted by white folks? Do we want to be in the bosom of white daddy? What is it?
Yeah, I think that we have fell in love with the oppressor. I'm trying to think of the syndrome where
Stockholm.
What is it?
Stockholm
syndrome.
Stockholm syndrome, absolutely. Stockholm syndrome. We've come to love our oppressor, love his ways. We come to believe that his ways, his culture is superior. The goal of any so-called black man and woman is to look like the European, think like the European, walk like the European, talk like the European, mimic the European, because we believe, and we've been taught this, we believe that his culture and his way of life is a superior culture. We really believe that. And the thing about it is this: not only do we believe his culture is supreme, but we will defend it to the death. And let me tell you, everything about his culture is death. I will even go as far as capitalism. Capitalism is death. Petition, dog eat dog, make a buck by any means necessary. That's not life. That's community, sharing, communal, trading, not off someone's weaknesses, not trying to profit off someone's shortcomings, not trying to beat your. His ways are the ways of death. A court system, adversarial, that assumes you're guilty. Adversarial, instead of trying to get to the point, try to understand the situation and make a judgment. Adversarial. Every way, his way is. He poisons the food. Now, what kind of dummy do you have to be to add chemicals to your own water supply? I'm not talking about chlorine to clean it up. I'm talking about fluoride. What kind of devil do you have to be to add a chemical that's unnecessary to your water supply? What kind of devil do you have to be to add all kind of chemical compounds in your food supply? What kind of devil is that? What kind of mindset do you have to believe that your natural beauty is a curse, that your nappy hair is a curse, that your skin color is a curse? What kind of devil promotes these things? What kind of people are susceptible? So everything about him is death. You have to get away from his thinking, get away from his culture. Everything he does, monogamy is death. Oh, what's wrong with monogamy? Monogamy is death. You have women, 2 million more black women than you have black men. 2 million more black women in the United States of America than there are black men. According to monogamy, you got 2 million women that should be left out of the dating market and marriage market and baby market. Again, the ways of death is this white man. Everything about his culture, everything about his ideologies and his beliefs, death. He's a death dealer. We should be the opposite. The essence of life. Let me tell you why the white man got the jump on us. Let me tell you why. Whether you believe we come from Africa and come from the Middle East, whether you believe we come from Asia, Asiatic, whatever you believe, right? But at some point in time, this devil decided to advance his civilization through war, terror, and weaponry. Why couldn't we defeat the European? Because I've heard black women say, well, if you this and you that, why don't you beat the white man and do this to the white man? Well, the reason why he got the jump on us is because while we were thinking about advancing life, farming, community. Our minds were advancing life and protecting life, not destroying it. So then you have an enemy coming from the caves and hillsides of Europe, destroy life and destroy the lives of others. So if I'm making technology, if I'm trying to advance my civilization not through warfare, then somebody comes bringing warfare, of course, who's gonna, of course. Why? Because he is, and our black women who think like him, they are death as well, destroying babies and come from Planned Parenthood, right? So we have to cut ourselves off from this cultural death way of thinking. And only then, when we separate ourselves from his thinking, can we ever even dream of being free as a people. Again, the white man's culture is a culture of death. Unless we get a divorce from it, it will certainly be our death also. I'll give it back to you, Prophet.
I love BlackRam 313. Whenever this brother come on, man, it's like, you know, he always gives me a new perspective on shit, man. Like, you know, I may have to take some excerpts from this shit and put it in a video production at some point. Yeah, I might have to take some of this shit. Brother L.A.R.
Yes, sir.
Now, you have, because I listen to your stuff too. I listen to a lot of your stuff as well. And your perspective on things have a deep, deep meaning as well. And you told me the last time you were on that, you know, you just kind of, you know, come with stuff that you think about and you put it on tape. So what's your take on white man, white power structure, white society? Do you agree with Brother BlackRam about white man being a deaf dealer? Everything about him is deaf. His ways are deaf, and we've adapted these ways. So a lot of us are living in the way of death, if you will. If we picked up the European ways and his ways are death, we picked them up. So we're living the way of death. Do you agree with that philosophy?
Yeah, because we're the only ones blamed for it. That's part of the violent, dysfunctional, degenerate black man stereotype, is that, you know, we're the poster child for white poisonous behavior. You know, that's what we are in America. Like, if we follow their occupations and their rules, that's what happens. I think one of the other things about it is, I think we as a people sometimes look at white people as the pinnacle of freedom in America, because they're the only ones who are truly free, because of, in this system, the amount of dysfunctional things they do as regular day-to-day life that they keep getting away with shows you how free that they are. And it's always been said in our households, you know, and it's just pretty much an American staple that you hear: if you do something, you're not getting away with that. Why? Because you ain't white. You know, so now, you know, you got people wanting to emulate white people because they're the only people that could be dysfunctional and accepted for it.
Wow. Well, we've been joined by Brother Faulkner. What's good, Brother Faulkner?
Officer Charles.
Hey, what's up, fellas? How you feeling?
What's going
Good,
on, man?
Bro.
I
Just
mean, just do
on
a
the
little
line
bit
with
of
L.A.R. and BlackRam 313, dropping
field
jewels
honor.
as always.
I was listening to some of it, especially when L.A.R. was talking about the, black people having a defense or a military. I can tell you just one thing. That's the reason why I'm pro military for black people because they have skills that you're gonna need. A lot of black people don't understand when you're not taught how to survive, which they pretty much a lot of black people in the urban environment aren't. You're gonna have to get that training and that knowledge from somewhere. And instead of like saying that, and that's another thing when it comes to freedom, you got to make sure you monopolize something, a bargaining chip. If majority of the black people controlled the military, we're like in the military, or if we had a certain trade that was owned by us and we mostly did it, that's your bargaining chip. You have certain power over that. And I was really liking it because a lot of black people think, oh, we need to move somewhere, and I appreciate the fact that L.A.R. said it. I'm pretty sure some other fella said it too. That you need to think of defense first. Think about it. You can move somewhere, but if you can't defend yourself, what good are you?
Mm. Yeah, well, I mean, that's my point of view. I mean, if we're gonna have something, we're gonna need the some degree of military or something like that to defend it. Because chances are, if we have something, white folks are gonna try to either take it, invade it, or destroy it. That's
It's
what I
called it.
believe.
It's called an indicator of past performance, of future performance. It's past performance. What did they do in the past? They weren't exactly the hey, let's sit down and let's do some trade and commerce type people. They were the we're gonna kick in your door and take your shit kind of people.
Mm. Yeah,
But you know,
they're going to
but
do
you know
something.
most black people do. But most black people are kumbaya anyway.
They love white folks. I said that. They love white folks. Love themselves some white folks. I don't know why, but they just do. They love white people. They love themselves some white folks, boy. They can't get enough of them. They want to be like them. They want to be accepted by them. They want to be, I don't know. They need white acceptance. Is a lot of people, they strive for that. They strive for that. They strive for the white man's acceptance as opposed to striving for black folks' unity, which makes no sense.
I,
Uh,
um,
Go
I
ahead.
think one of the things that we do that is confusing for us as people in total, we confuse personal relationships with group relationships. You
Mm,
know, are there people who are cool people of every group? Yeah, but that doesn't mean that their group sees your group as good people. So just because you have some friends that may be of another race, that's cool. But realize, if you add up their family and their friends and the people as a group, that one friend can't stop you from them not liking you and trying to destroy you.
mm.
So we always in that. Well, I got a few. We're just as guilty as I got a white friend as white people are as I got a black friend.
Very true.
I have white
That's,
friends.
that's very true because guess what? At the end of the day, you're going to be loyal to what represents you. You're going to be loyal to your own. And a lot of black people don't understand that. Like, yeah, I'm not expecting a white man to turn against his own people for me. I don't expect that shit. Not anytime soon. It will be pretty foolish to look at that.
Mm.
As a matter of fact, you gotta fight the battle within yourself. The Stockholm syndrome, the psychosis, first. You
Yeah.
you gotta you gotta understand. Guess what? You're a means to an end. Even in some interracial relationships, you're a means to an end. Like people be like, "Hey, my wife's black," but how many times have you figured out that when women even have children by somebody outside their race, what do they say to them behind closed doors?
Mm. Well, my thing is this. I mean, of course, we're all in America, right? We're all in North America. And you would think that being that we're all in America, that many of us black people should be somewhat monolithic in our thinking. I talk about this often with Brother Cerulean. You know, we're not really monolithic about anything. There's so much individualism, and we don't have this monolithic thought. For instance, the way Brother BlackRam talked about us going to another country. What if a vast majority of us had that ideal? What if we had that ideal 20 years ago, 30 years ago, 50 years ago? What if we all had, a majority of us had the ideal of having our own agriculture companies, our own plumbing companies, electrical companies, real estate companies, so on and so forth? What if all of us had those monolithic ideals about things 20, 30, 40, 50 years ago, with brothers like you, Brother Faulkner, brothers like you, Brother BlackRam, brothers like you, Brother L.A.R.? What if that had happened those years ago? Where would we be at right now? You understand? Where would we be right now if that had taken place? If we had that monolithic, and it wouldn't even have, we wouldn't have to be monolithic about everything, but the things that count. I want you brothers to elaborate on that. What do you think it would be? Even if it was 20 years ago, it doesn't even have to be 50 years ago. What if it was 20 years ago?
Man, the
You
first
got it,
thing,
Ram.
cool. The first thing that jump out to me, man, uh, is that a lot of men who met their demise in the ghettos of North America would be alive today and thriving with families, man. This is not a light issue, and I'm sure my experience as a black man is the experience that you all have as well. But man, when I was growing up in the 90s and early 2000s, I saw nothing but death. Uh, and one of the reasons behind violence is poverty. It's one of the reasons. So
where you at, Brother BlackRam? Where you at? Where are you?
I was born and raised Chicago West Side.
Okay. You in Chi-Town.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
So seeing a lot of that, man, the first thing that again pops out to me is that a lot of brothers will be alive and well today. And that by itself would be a blessing. And I think that we would, second to that, is that we will be a thriving and respectful community, which is the goal of any community. When you look at the Asian community, particularly the Chinese, no matter where you go, you can say one thing about the Chinese people in community, that A, they have a community, and B, the community is thriving, and C, their community is somewhat isolated. Notice wherever you live at, whether it's California, New York, Chicago, name the town, if you have a Chinese population, they're insulated and isolated. They are among themselves. Let me ask a question real quick. Officer Charles, you there?
Yes, sir, BlackRam.
You're a police officer that do patrol, right?
Yes, sir. Baltimore
So,
City.
all right. So now, I'm sure there's a Chinese population in Baltimore.
A small Asian community.
Okay, and one thing that I find fascinating about Asian communities in certain cities, or in most cities, is that there is hardly any policing.
Yeah, they police themselves.
Areas. Exactly. So to answer your question, Prophet, what would we look like today if we had those communities that were thriving and we had that agenda? We will look more, if we stay in America, we'll look much like the Chinese community, except it would be even greater. Why? Because I'm sorry to say, I believe in black supremacy. We are greater people. Mm-hmm. We are greater people. We are more creative. We're more intelligent. We are the salt of the earth. We lead in culture and style and fads. And when we are able to thrive, when we're able to come from safe neighborhoods, when we're able to come from clean environments, we're able to come from safe environments, when we are getting the nutrition that we need to have, when we're getting the parenting that we need to have, I submit to you, under those circumstances, under those normal civilized circumstances, when you can rear a child the way a child should be reared and raised, that particular child, if it's a black child, not only will succeed, but supersede their peers. I'm talking about outdo the Asians in mathematics, the whites in science, the Japanese or the Jews in business. Not only will we thrive, but we wouldn't even be their competitors. We'll be their leaders. We'll lead in industry. Imagine this, Prophet. Imagine this, L.A.R. Imagine this, Officer Charles. If you had a submissive black woman who honored you as husband, and you all had the funds to live in a safe, clean neighborhood, good schools, even homeschool your children. The science of nutrition, that no, you're not going to eat a damned hot dog and potato chips, but your child is getting the proper nutrition. Started in the womb. The mother is not drinking or alcohol or drugs of any kind, eating fresh organic foods, partly foods that you grow in your own garden. Your child has a regular bedtime. Your child is disciplined. You ain't got that black woman nagging you either. Imagine if you were able to have a great family and a great community, and your child was able to thrive. Who in the hell would be able to beat a well-educated young black man or young black woman? Who in the hell would be able to compete against that? No one. So again, how would our communities look? It would outshine all others because we are supreme. We are a brilliant people. We are a great people. And under the right circumstances, man, there will be no stopping us. So I'll end it with that.
BlackRam 313. This is therapeutic, man. brother L.A.R.
I'm a twist it a little bit about being a monolith. When I look at America, one of the things this country is predicated on is the religion is capitalism. And I don't think we ever think about that. Our view of capitalism in some ways is viewed in a house Negro, field Negro mentality. That's why we can't be a monolith at times. Our view on relationships with each other, whether we're talking about just doing right by each other as men or building a family, is in some ways under a house Negro, field Negro relationship model. So we're not on the same page. And I think that interference of seeing our growth and our family through the eyes of white oppression, we never separated and gave ourselves space to have our own identity like these other cultures do. Because our culture, in some ways, is so ingratiated with American culture, and we don't even understand that most of the things that we consider good family culture and traditional family culture and traditional culture in America and pulling yourself up by your bootstraps, that's actually our culture, just like the Bible was perverted to be everybody's culture when it was our culture. Mm-hmm. So we're acting like the people who sometimes we're deifying when all they're doing is acting like us and selling us their mentalities. You know, it's like we twisted. So it's hard for us to be on the same page because we don't know which side we want to be on collectively.
Wow. Brother Faulkner. Well, before you go, Brother Faulkner, you're a police officer, right? You've been on the force for a while now, right?
Going in my 11th year.
Okay, so you've been a police officer more than a decade. I want you to address the question from a police officer standpoint. Like, the things I talked about earlier, what I told Brother BlackRam and what I said to Brother L.A.R. I asked him what would Black society look like if we were more monolithic about ideals, about our own culture and things of that nature. Would it be different for brothers like you? Would you be fighting crime the way you have to fight crime? Would you even have to be in our neighborhoods, or would you be in our neighborhoods because the neighborhoods would be better? Police officers like you would be in our neighborhoods as opposed to the other police officers who have this preconceived prejudice of Black folks. What would you think it would look like from a police officer standpoint? What would it look like?
Wakanda. But still,
Wakanda.
but on a serious note, it would be like it would be damn near close to perfection, because the one thing about Black people, they the system itself tries to keep you down so much that you don't even know up from right. It's like being in the bottom of the ocean. You don't know what's up and you don't know what's down. And what happens is this: when you're left alone to your own devices, look what we did just a generation removed from slavery. We built our own Wall Street. Imagine if that was left alone. We would have been the financial powerhouse of the world. Mind-boggling, isn't it? And being a police officer, you would no longer be seen as a threat, as the enemy. You would be seen as a friend, a community servant. You would be like similar to somebody who would settle minor disputes instead of major crime. You would be part of the community instead of just an agent of the system. If that makes sense. You would be so respected and loved. It would be a joy on earth. You would probably be you would actually shape a lot of the future, because you would have something that we can protect. You would be that shield. That's why they give you a badge, the shield from the headlights and all that stuff. You would be that actual shield, not fighting against the community, but fighting for the community. It will become like almost a utopia.
Amazing. Well said, Officer Charles. I agree with you. That's very, very well put, I must say. Very, very well put. Appreciate it.
Absolutely. I believe the same thing, man. I believe that if we were a little more monolithic in our thinking, in our ways and actions, I think it would have sort of a like a Wakanda kind of vibe to it. Of course there'd be different sects, just like Wakanda. There'd be different groups and whatever. You'd have your Israelites, you'd have your Muslims, you'd have your different groups. But when it came to us as a people and the growth of Black society, we all are monolithic in that thinking. I think that would be a wonderful thing, because we wouldn't have to agree on everything. But if we agreed on that would be a magnificent thing. I truly believe that. Now, do I think I'm ever going to live to see it? Of course not. I'll be dead and gone and it still won't have happened yet. But I would like to think that forums like this, forums like yours, Brother BlackRam, forums like yours, Brother L.A.R, will kind of give others, if not a sense of being monolithic, but a sense of thinking bigger and greater. I think a big problem with us in Black society is that a lot of us think very small. We have these micro thoughts, those thoughts that only last for 5 minutes. And after that 5 minutes is up, it's like that thought never happened. I think a lot of us do that. I think we need to think bigger, because if we thought bigger, we do bigger things. It's hard to do big when you think small, and vice versa. It's hard to do small when you think big. So I think that's a problem with us as well. Of course, we have our issues with bigotry and discrimination in the white power structure, but I think there's a lot of rocky there's a lot of rocky, shifty, delirious sort of things that go on with us as a society, far as how we build families, how we communicate, the way we educate our children, or should I say the lack thereof of education for our children, the way we interact with one another, the plan of having children in the first place. I think a lot of us have failed to plan our lives, therefore we have failed to plan the lives of our children. Because if you haven't planned your life, that means when that child comes, that's another person whose life is not planned. So I think we falter in that as well. Let me ask you brothers this. Now, we know that illegitimacy is a gateway to poverty in most occasions. Not all the time, but most of the time, statistics prove it. Most of the people who are poor are people with 1, 2, or more children. So when you have this within our society, and it's prolific, people talk about it, people pathologize about it, and all that kind of stuff. Take Brother BlackRam, he's an Israelite, right? And I know that he believes in having more than one woman, or 2 or 3. I don't know how many women Brother BlackRam got. I have no idea, but I know it's probably more than 1 or 2. When you talk about the illegitimacy rate and all of these women who have all of these kids, do you brothers believe that the solution, because I have my own thoughts about this, do you believe that the solution is that brothers should be taken on, brothers of consequence should be taking on these strayed mothers? Should they be taking them on to, I don't know, help kids from being without male influence, helping kids from being without male guidance? Do you brothers believe that should happen?
You want to take that, L.A.R.? Charles?
That's a nuanced one for me. Because we've had the history of, first and foremost, guys taking on other people's kids. That's already been in our history as black men. The problem with that is these mothers have a history of putting themselves above their kids, even if you're playing stepdaddy. So too many guys have gotten used. So I don't think guys are willing to take that risk anymore. I think one of the other issues would be that people don't want to admit this, but part of the poverty is investing in the wrong children. Like our community is investing in the kids who we know we've taught wrong. So we're trying to invest to fix them, while we're leaving the kids who sometimes had to fend for themselves, or the kids who were taught right. They're actually out there dealing with the wolves of the world that wear suits. So we don't care, because we think, the suits just can't kill them immediately, but the suits can cripple the whole family economically for generations, and we don't take that serious. So it's a nuanced thing, because can some of us brothers take on more than one woman? Yeah. Some of us brothers are some of us going to actually do it beyond the sexual part? That's sometimes the question. Because to take on multiple women, you mean you're going to have to take on head head of household in a different scenario. And some of these women can't work together even if you got them in a group. That's a whole nother story. So like I said, it's nuance for me, man. I'm gonna just shut it down.
Brother Faulkner?
Hey, what was the question again? I want to get a good interpretation.
No, I talked about how in our society is prolific with a lot of single motherhood, you know, and often, and I reference Brother BlackRam because I know he believes in having, you know, more than, you know, one woman. You know, he believes in having multiple women. Am I correct, Brother BlackRam? When I state that, I want to make sure I'm right.
Yes, polygyny is a part of Hebrew culture for sure.
Okay, so he believes in polygyny. So do you think that that polygyny aspect should be taken on by more brothers and take on these single mothers with their kids? Should a brother take on 2 or 3 baby mamas to keep the kids from being without masculine structure or discipline or counsel?
Here's the funny part: brothers do that anyway on a single basis, and people don't look at it from an economic standpoint. As long as you're working and they're wife material, I don't have a problem with it. Because right then and there, let's say you had 3 wives. I'm a police officer. Let's say I'm married another police officer, married a nurse, married a federal employee. How much money do you think could be brought into one household now? You change the economics, stasis of the black community overnight, damn near. And 2, what do they always talk about? A shortage of men. I mean, you're sharing men anyway. You might as well do it within the confines of benefiting, if it makes sense.
Yeah, that does make sense. But the women would have to be women like you mentioned, though. They couldn't be the old hood hoes. You couldn't go out there and marry like 3 hood hoes who got like 2 and 3 and 4 kids by 2 and 3 and 4 different people. You couldn't take them on. That wouldn't be economically sound for you, would it?
Oh no! Here's the secret. Here's the secret part. Here's the secret part, brother X. A lot of the chicks with degrees are the hood hoes.
I was just about to say.
So I mean, it's it's kind of an unspoken word, but they are the hood hoes. Like a lot of them still do the same shit, man. And I mean, they all say the same shit, like we said. There are no suitable mates. Now you got one. Now you all gotta work together and act accordingly. You then on top of that, you'll have that masculine energy. That's why when you look at some places, who's usually the supervisor? The guy. He can have a whole office full of women. Why do they put the guys to supervise? Because sometimes you got a lot of women who aren't used to working with other women, and he's got to settle the group. He's got to keep everybody on that logical plane. Just like we need emotion and empathy, we need logic and reason. And once you branch that off into the kids, and the kids see the cooperation of the household adults, you can't help but to guide these children in a better stream. And once you have all that economic stimulus coming into one household, you can put your kids in better education. Not just during the school year, but also during the off times in the summer. You can put them in summer camps where they're being tutored, where they're being shown, other ways of life instead of just the inner city. You can afford that shit. And you don't have to worry about, oh, I'm stressing to put my kid to college or trade school. You got the money.
Brother BlackRam?
Yeah, Brother Charles and L.A.R made some great points. My idea to answer the question, at no way in no time would I promote or suggest that a man has any dealings with another man's child. Deal with a single mother. She should be able to take care of her own child or children or however. Uh, I don't believe in taking my money in my household and providing for another household, because at the end of the day, it was her who opened up her legs and decided to have a child by possibly a deadbeat. Um, so that suffering and that onus and that responsibility should be hers. Can you hear me very well?
Yep, I can hear you,
Okay.
brother.
All right. And so here's a solution for me. You got a community of women, baby mamas everywhere. If you want to do your part, if you want to help the community, mentor those boys as a man. But by all means, have nothing to do with the mother in that sense. Now, if you are dealing with a single mom, if you know the son or daughter needs talking to, that's one thing. But as far as taking an active role in raising another man's child, because this is my perspective, Americans believe that the child belongs to the woman. That's a woman's child, and men believe that they can go and wife up this woman and help her take care of her child, as the man is her helpmeet. I view children as belonging to men first, not women. And having said that, it is against my personal convictions and belief to take care of another man's progeny or child, to ensure another man's legacy, genetic furtherance, to ensure that his family name succeeds into the future. However, it's a community that's supposed to be a brother. The best that I can give is to mentor his child or children, but I will have absolutely nothing to do with the child, because what a woman would do is say that you're supposed to mentor, guide, direct, and pay for the child as a condition of sale for what she has between her legs. No, thank you. So again, to wrap that up, a mentor, yes. A support, a helper, no, thank you. I don't think any me personally, I don't think any respectable man would wife up a single mother and help take care of her children. I think that's distasteful. I think it's weak. I think it reeks of low self-esteem. Black men should have standards. I'm not saying we shouldn't deal with single mothers at all, but it should be at a relative distance. Let her take care of her own children. Let her bear the responsibility of that alone or with whatever man she's dealt with. I don't believe men should simp and take on the responsibility of raising other men's children. But that's just my take on it.
I am with Brother BlackRam on this one. Here's the thing. I think that within a community, okay, if you have strong men within the community that set an example and mentor these young people, teach these young people. Now, that's the difference. It's the difference between a coach at the YMCA or a coach like Brother Faulkner. Like Brother Faulkner coaches young boys, teenagers, I believe, right, Brother Faulkner?
Yes, sir.
Teenagers. Now, all that's well and good. But to have a man, to say that a man should take on like 2 and 3 women, and all these women got 2 and 3 kids. Number one, like I said before, it's not economically sound for him, because he's not going to gain. He's going to lose, especially if these chicks is broke. He's going to lose, all right? Because whatever resources he has is going to be funneled to them, especially if they don't have any money. And those resources are being funneled by another man's responsibility. See, that's where I kind of, like I said, I'm with Brother BlackRam on this one, because I don't believe that another man should be responsible for the next man's kids. I don't believe that shit, because I got kids myself, all right? And I was out of my kids' life for a while. And when I was out of their life, was nobody doing shit for them. You know how I know? Because they told me. So, I mean, I don't believe that another man should have to come in and help her take care of her kids and do all this kind of bullshit, because, see, she's laid down and she screwed all these dudes and had all these kids. And if these dudes is not in these kids' life, not only is it's not the kid's fault. They're innocent. So it's not a shot across the bow of the kid. What it is would be self-preservation for the brother, because to ask this brother to come in and basically clean up your mess that you made, because when you got 4 and 5 baby daddies, make no mistake, ladies, that's a mess. Okay, that's a mess. You can call it what you want to call it, but I call it a mess. So to ask a brother to come in there and now help you take care of these 4 and 5 kids that you have by these 4 and 5 dudes, I think that's a lot to ask a brother. That's a lot to ask him to do. And the only thing he gets in exchange is your funky pussy. That's what he's getting. That's his reward. Okay. I mean, that's not much of a reward for what you're asking him to do. I mean, it just doesn't balance out. You know, I mean, you got to at least give him a lump of gold every year or some shit like that. You can't just say, hey, look, you know, you get this here vagina, but guess what? I need you to buy my kids clothes. I need you to buy my kids shoes. I need you to freaking buy a car for me to drive them around and pay the bills and help them eat and all this kind of bullshit. I think that's just BS. That's just BS. And not only that, I think you're giving her an easy out, man. Because look at this. All right. Not to go off the subject too much, but look at this. You know that there's women, right? There's women right now today who have children, right? They've had kids by guys who are solid guys who have jobs, guys who have their own place, guys who have means. And let me tell you something. Let me tell you the selfishness of women. Instead of saying, hey, you know, because her ass broke, she live in the project some damn where. Now, instead of her saying, you know what, I'm going to put this child first. So being that you have the job and you have the place and you have the resources, because I am more concerned with the child, I want you to take the child because you can take better care of the child financially. You can probably take better care of the child physically, mentally, all of that. They know that to be true. But these women will not do it. They will keep that child. You know why? Because, see, if they were to give that child to that man, do you know what that means? Whatever shit they get, they would have to work for, like men have to do. Do y'all understand what I'm saying? They don't have the kid. Guess what that means? Whatever shit they get, they got to work for. So it's never really about the child. It's about them. So when people make selfish ass decisions like that, as far as the children are concerned, you know that that's not going to change. Therefore, I would never tell a brother, hey man, get with this baby mama who got 5 kids. I would never. If anything, I would try to brainwash them out of even thinking of it. We coming close to the end of the show, so I want to put this across to you, brothers, before we get out of here. We talked about balance tonight, and there's so many different facets that would create balance within Black society. Let me ask you, brothers, what do you consider yourself doing, yourself as an individual, to bring balance to your life or others in Black society? Whoever want to go can go.
Well, I guess if nobody else goes, I go first. For me, it's very, very simple. No one man can do everything, yet no one man is an island. We all have to do our part, and our part is considered a niche or a niche. And some may consider it insignificant, others may not. But there is something that all of us can do. For me, that is simply discussing the issues that I discuss on my channel. My channel is about female nature. Now, what does it have to do with balance? Oh, real simple. For centuries, female nature has plagued men. But now I believe that it's uncovered. I believe that we can recognize female nature and recognize it and decide what we want to do with it. One thing about a man, after he can eat, no matter the circumstance, after he can eat, after he got a place to use the bathroom, after he got clothes on his back, after he has a place to live, once all of those things are covered, you better believe the number one thing on his mind after that is a female. Nothing really else matters after that. Because once you got your basic necessities met, I'm not saying you have to have an abundance of it. Once those basic necessities are met, a man wants a woman. And for us, that is the building block. As I said earlier, that is the building block of all society. One more time. From man and woman comes children. From children comes a community. From a community comes a nation. From a nation, a society. So my part in bringing balance is on my channel is uncovering the mystery that is female nature, uncovering female nature in all its forms. I read a scripture on the first, I don't know if it was earlier on this one or the other one that we had to end, but I read a scripture and it talked about in 1 Peter chapter 3, dealing with a woman according to knowledge. This is the process of civilization, male and female relationships. So that's what my channel is about, dwelling with women or dealing with women according to knowledge. Now, to some, that may be just a very small part. However, all parts are a sum total of the whole. And I think we need to be well-rounded on every aspect. And that's what I believe.
Brother
So I hand it
L.A.R.
over to you, Prophet.
Got you. First and foremost, the balance I give is to my son, so he can understand how this world works and how it's getting built to work in the future. As far as my channel is concerned, I try to give people options, because I think one of the things that we don't have in our community is options. You know, everybody wants to be rich, but they don't know how many options you have to get there. Everybody wants to be successful, but they don't know how many options. We don't talk. So part of what I do is give people options and understand the nuances of situations, because, you know, the lack of knowledge can kill you, or the lack of understanding nuance can kill you. And I've learned that with my own life experience. You know, what ignorance of the law is no excuse. That law goes for man and nature, you know. So that's part of what I try to do to bring balance. And the same, I do the same thing with my friends and family. It's like you know, God only looks after children and fools. So if you old and you still being a fool, hoping that God looks after you, well, you're a fool still, but it's not going to work out well. So I do my best to just give people as much information that they can use and utilize and just take into their brain. And maybe, you know, when a situation pops up, they can say they know the answer. So that's my contribution.
Brother Faulkner.
Last but not least, even though it's kind of hard to follow up between these two guys, man. It's like coming at the, you know, like the Rolling Stones and James Brown, man.
Yeah, it is, isn't it?
You know, as my contribution to this modal plane that we live is to do what men have done to me, took me under their wing and taught me how to be one. Whether if it was easy, whether if it was hard, but a man stands on his own 2 feet and has principles and a code. And I like to teach that to my son, to my wrestlers, and my friends. I also like to contribute my ability to protect people. That's why I spent 10 years in the military, and I'm on almost my 11th year later this year in the police department. To be fair to my people and to teach my people to love each other. I want to be a benefit to the world, even if they don't like me.
Mm. My thing is, These brothers, they need us to, I try not to judge them too harshly. I will employ them whenever I can. As far as my channel goes, I like to make people think. I have a saying that I always say, as y'all see behind me here. It says, open your minds. Now, when I say that, I don't mean think like me or think like other members of my team, because y'all know T.P.O.T is a group. It's not just me. It's a group of people involved with it. I don't expect you to think like me or think like the members of my team or think like people that I know or I am aligned with. My thing is, I wish to make you think. Whatever thinking you want to do, I want you to think, period. I want you to think more than you speak. I want you to listen and understand more than you speak. Because I believe if you have greater thinking, you will have greater behavior. If you have more constructive thinking, you will have more constructive behavior. And I get on this microphone and I talk about all kinds of shit. I mean, y'all looking down here right now at three very respectable men on my panel right now. And these are the type of people that are more than likely on a stream of mine. I don't expect you to think like them either, but I do expect you to think about the things that they said tonight. Because some of this information, believe it or not, cannot just keep you from dropping out of school, keep you from ending up in jail, keeping you from having a baby before you're ready. Some of this stuff could probably actually save your black ass life if you think about it and possibly apply it. And that's what this platform has always been about. You look in my archives, you can hear me say, if I can keep one kid from dropping out of school, if I can keep one 13-year-old girl from having a baby, if I can keep one brother out of jail, if I could save one life, all this shit is worth it. The computers, the microphones, the programs, the money I spend, all that shit is worth it if I save one life. Because if I save one life, all of this is a success, even if it takes me 20 years. And every life I save after that makes it more of a success. I want to thank the brothers for hopping on tonight. Brother L.A.R, you already know what it is. Brother BlackRam, you know you my man. Brother Faulkner, I appreciate all three of you brothers, man. And what y'all need to do, y'all need to get on down there to L.A.R Movement on YouTube and subscribe to the brother's channel and maybe drop a few coins in his bucket. Also, get on down the dial and go to BlackRam 313, subscribe and drop a few coins in his bucket as well. These brothers bring some good messages, and if you listen to them and possibly apply them, you guarantee to have a positive outcome. Y'all brothers already know what kind of regard I hold y'all in, man. I got a lot of respect for y'all brothers, and I appreciate y'all, man, taking some time tonight, man, to come on by T.P.O.T, man. I appreciate it, brothers.
Hey, respect to you as well, Prophet, man. You are a good brother, man. Respectful brother. Thank you for having me on.
And, absolutely. Before you go, though, before you go, Brother BlackRam. Oh, hold up. I gotta start it over. I played the wrong tape. Hold on. Before you go.
You know this is therapeutic, man.
Yes, sir. This is therapeutic.
This is therapeutic, man. I appreciate you, brother, man. Whenever you want me to come on down there to BlackRam 313 land, man, just come on, give me a shout, man. I'll come on down.
Get you L.A.R and Brother Charles
on man. I'll come on
it's
down.
It's a pleasure, man. It's definitely a pleasure. I'm honored to be next to you guys. I'm honored that you value what I say.
Yeah, man. Hit me up, brother BlackRam. You know, I'll come down there, man. I'll come down to your stream anytime you want me, brother. I'll be down there.
Appreciate that.
All
Appreciate
right.
it. All right.
All right, my brother. Peace.
Yes.
Peace.
All right. Y'all take care. It's a pleasure and an honor.
Before you go, brother L.A.R, before you go, hold on.
Still moving. Still moving.
And you,
Appreciate it.
and you, when you want me to come down to L.A.R land, just hit me up. You got my information. I'll come down there whenever you want me to, brother.
I'm gonna start going live because I think I'm gonna be at home for a while after this surgery.
Yeah, well, hit
Yeah.
me up, man. Or you got my information, hit me up. I'll come down there. I'll be on the stream. I'll talk some shit, you know, make
We gonna get
your
it.
subscribers mad, you know, the whole nine. All right. Brother Faulkner, brother, I appreciate you, man. I guess I see you on the next stream, probably on BGS's or Brother Valdez's. One of those.
Of course, it's always a pleasure. You know, one shit talking to another. I love it.
Oh, absolutely. And my viewers, I want to thank you for watching tonight, catching the live stream with Brother L.A.R, Brother BlackRam 313, and Brother Faulkner. Make sure you like, share this video, subscribe to this here channel, and also make sure you get on down there to the Prophet of Thought series Facebook page. That's Prophet of Thought series at Facebook. That's the main page. Plenty of followers on it. And make sure you hop on the T.P.O.T bandwagon page on Facebook as well. There's always some good stuff there. And we also have the Prophet of Thought series fan group page. Get on there, request to be a member. You'll get right in. Trust me, you have my word on that. You can also hit us up on WhatsApp and Instagram. That's Prophet of Thought on Instagram. And guess what else we got, y'all? A Twitter. You know that thing I keep telling y'all about. And our handle is at T.P.O.T Media on Twitter. That's at T.P.O.T Media on Twitter. I keep telling y'all, follow me on Twitter. I'm going to haunt you in your damn sleep. Make sure you drop a few coins in the bucket. And if you don't want to drop a few coins in the bucket, make sure you drop a like in the bucket because it's greatly appreciated. It's almost as good as money. Almost. Once again, I'd like to thank my most honored guest, man, Brother BlackRam 313, Brother Faulkner, and Brother L.A.R. It's always a pleasure, brothers. I want to thank everybody, my moderators, for coming in tonight. They always do a good job. Make sure you hear next week, same time, 9:30 p.m. Eastern, because you know we're going to have a good show and see how I be surprising y'all with these joints. Y'all didn't know Brother BlackRam and L.A.R was going to be on here tonight, did y'all? So you make sure you tune into the channel so you'll always know what's going on the old T.P.O.T YouTube page. And with that, I will leave you with 3 words. Like I always do, open your minds. And we out of here, y'all.
Peace.
Peace, folks.
Only from T.P.O.T.